Hello, today we meet with Daniel Gaster, who tell us a little about his relationship.
Okay, as the idea is to know about your relationship, first we will how do you meet with your partner?
How did I meet with my partner? Well, I met my wife that I'm married to now about 20 years ago. I used to work for a company that fabricated parts for automobiles, like cars, like General Motors, places like this. And I was an employee there, and she came to work there as a student. So I met her that way when she came in to start working. I was already working there. So I saw her, we got together, and that was it. That's how I met her.
Perfect. And now, how did you fall in love of a person with a different cultures and
Oh.
language?
Well, that was challenging for sure at the beginning. But when I met my wife, she spoke English as well. But right away, I had to learn how to speak Polish because my wife is Polish. So I learned how to speak the language a little bit. And so I was able to communicate with her in her own language. And then I went to Europe. I traveled to Europe for the first time to visit her family. And that was the biggest culture shock because it was the first time that I traveled outside of my country, right? So for me, going to Europe was a huge difference, especially Poland, where she is from. So that was, I wouldn't say so much as difficult, maybe challenging it was, but for me, interesting, right? I love culture, so for me it was definitely something that was interesting, and I don't know, it became amazing. Right?
Did you know any Colombians?
When I lived in Canada,
No, from Colombia.
do I know any Colombians here? Of course, definitely. This is my second time in Colombia. My second time in Barranquilla, my second time working at the Colombo. I used to work here, I used to live here 9 years ago, right? So that was my first time to Colombia. And when I came here, I didn't know any Colombian. But now, 9 years later, I have a lot of Colombian friends here. So from Barranquilla, from Bucaramanga, from Bogota, from many different places around Colombia.
Very interesting.
That is what I call a real story. So when you meet but spoken Spanish and English, and did you think it difficult to understand or did think use flow?
Basically, by living here in Colombia, did I find it difficult because it's Spanish speaking? Well, myself, not really. Well, challenging, again, and not really that difficult because I speak a few languages already. I speak Polish, más o menos, a little bit, but I speak French and English fluently. French being my first language, English my second. So Spanish being very similar to Spanish, like French being very similar to Spanish, I found it easier a little bit. The only difficult part I found from being here, especially in the coast of Colombia, is the speed at which you speak Spanish. Here, when you speak Spanish, it's very fast. It's muy rápido. Where in Bogota, cachacos, we call them, they basically very easy to understand. They're very slow when they speak. So I didn't find it too difficult to live here, and well, I don't find it too difficult to live here and to speak to Barranquilleros, but like I said, it's the speed at which you speak that makes it challenging, that makes it difficult.
It means that the knowledge of language has real advantage. And with what you have tell us, do you think that it enrich more a relationship where from the beginning the other is being now in its totality? And for example, culture or language, or is the same?
What do you mean by being enriched with more languages? You think it makes it easier in total, you're trying to say? Well, of course, it definitely makes it much easier. Myself, I've traveled to about 30 countries in my lifetime now, so definitely knowing more languages has made it easier. But knowing the more important languages, like the more used languages, like English obviously is the international language that makes it easier to travel from country to country, but Spanish as well, and many others. But yes, in relation, knowing the more languages you know, it makes it easier to meet people, it makes it easier to communicate, it makes it easier in general to find a job, and it makes it easier to travel altogether.
Very interesting your answer. To close this product interview, what would be for you the main reason why foreigners like the Colombian people? Is language a factor in stopping a relationship?
You mean Spanish would be stopping? Well, not necessarily. I mean, Colombia has, for myself, a very good atmosphere. I mean, of course, there's a difference between Canada and U.S. compared to Colombia. But I really love the way the people are here. The people are very friendly, generally very friendly, very helpful. They're very talkative too as well. And your culture, you have a very good culture. I mean, the food, the music, the rhythm, that you're making very open. You know, you're very pleasant to be around. So for all the countries that I've been to, Colombia is really a very open country, I have to admit. Even more so than the United States. Way more so than the United States. Americans are more closed, where Colombians are very open, right? So for me, the language was not a factor, because even sometimes when I meet a Colombian on the streets and my Spanish is limited. Like, I understand more than I can speak, but in general, even if I can speak to them, they would continue to speak in Spanish, no matter what, right? And it wouldn't bother them, and it wouldn't bother me, right? So, no, in general, I don't think it has made a difference for me or held back. And I've met other extranjeros and foreigners that come here, that live here, that work here as teachers in other professions, that they all say the same thing. They say that they're in love with the coast and they're in love with Colombia, and it definitely has a different feel than what most people think from around the world.
Very sure. Thank you for giving us a little of your time.
Not of this, my pleasure, anytime.
Hello, today we're meeting with Benjamin Parker, who tell us about his relationship.
Okay, as the idea is to know about your relationship, first we would like how to meet your partner and if you know other Colombians.
Okay, well, first of all, I met my wife on the internet, which is a church website. We met for like 12 years now. And I don't know any other couple who has done that here in Colombia.
Perfect. Now, how did you fall in love of a person with a different culture and language?
Well, I fell in love with her because in her profile she was beautiful and she had a nice color, nice hair and everything. And obviously the culture I had to practice. It was very difficult.
That is what I call a real story. So when you meet both spoken English and Spanish, and I did find it difficult to understand or did think useful.
Okay, yes, I understand. Wow. Funny you say that because I hardly speak Spanish. She hardly speaks English. So the communication is neutral. We show a lot of gestures rather than speaking the same language. So it is difficult right now.
Okay, it means that the knowledge of the languages has great advantage. Now, with what you have told us, do you think that it enriches more a relationship where the beginning, the other, is made known in its totality? For example, its culture or language, or it is the same?
Well, for me, I think to know a language, it is helpful to know the language, especially when where you're living, and the culture and the language together. I think they will both be beneficial if you know them together.
Okay, very interesting to answer. And now, what would be for you the main reason why the foreigners like the Colombian people?
Wow. Funny you say that because my parents said, okay, just go. And when I came here, I saw her and she was really nice. The culture, she showed excellent attributes. And I think, well, I know that she's helping me to do better. I can be a better person with her culture.
Okay, thank you for giving us a little space of